The business community needs to know what's happening at Bryant. Correct?
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Hey, great to have you aboard. Thanks very much for tuning in. We've been talking a lot about what's happening on college campuses lately, both on the television and the radio program. But hey, a reprieve from the controversies about the college campuses and a conversation that really ought to be an annual orientation for people in the business community around here about Bryant University's just entire, business acumen, leadership function, the institutions that they have right there that are really not only designed to engage students with what is an incredible return on investment at Bryant. I mean, it's like 99% guarantee that if you get a degree at Bryant, you're going to get some kind of a nice gig, which is good when you're paying more money than God for tuition, But I mean, it's at least you've got that lock. But Bryant's doing so much more in the community as an economic stimulator, and we got a couple of heavy hitters here to talk about that this evening, and just wanted to borrow a minute to just say, look, I know the world is crazy right now as we speak. For those of you who watch the show on a regular basis, it's 1 o'clock on Thursday. You're seeing the show on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever you're seeing it. Donald Trump is still on trial. His main accuser is getting destroyed on the stand by cross-examination. He has agreed to debate Joe Biden, and I'm still holding on to the idea that although there are two dates, I'm kind of a betting man, not a big betting man, but for a sport betting man, I still wouldn't bet that this is going to happen. We'll talk more about that on the radio, and we've got to get some political consultation in here, other than mine for you, next week to talk about this thing, because I don't care that there's anything on the calendar. I just don't. I don't see it yet. There's too much that could blow up. But in the meantime, speaking about U.S. attorneys and prosecutors and all that kind of stuff, we have a fairly quiet U.S. attorney here, but he has brought a couple of issues to the public's attention this week, which deserves some follow-up as well on the radio and here on the television. The first is this headline, which is disturbing to no end, to see that there are hundreds of kids that have been, I don't know, the term warehoused is really, really, really gross. And DCYF has got some answering to do. The McKee administration has got some answering to do in terms of this, but it's not their authentic or original problem. It's a systemic situation that actually tracks back to before the McKee administration, and that is that young kids, mainly young girls, have been shipped over to Bradley for what ought to be a week or two consultation, and they end up there for 90 days to 180 days or something like that. What we didn't get is the whys. We just got the problem from the U.S. Attorney, and I'd like to know why. Is it a resource issue? Is it a carelessness issue? Is it a throw away the key, I got the file off my desk issue? What is it? So we're gonna work on that one because I think it's important. Right now, he's just letting his press conference stand as the discussion, even though we've invited him and we'll continue to try to invite him in. Then he pops this one on us, which just, forgive me for laughing, but look at this. This is an incredible headline here. No, not that one. That's the subject. There we go. The other one was the subject of our conversation. This is kind of thing that when you see a story like this, you say something like this: "Oh my God, how could people do that?" Right? Come on back to me. How could people do that? How could postal workers invade envelopes that are coming through on a rapid basis looking to we ask questions about murderers and rapists and all sorts of conspiracies, and we tend not to even ask those questions that way, right? Like heinous crimes, we just kind of go, oh my God. But when something like this happens, how could people do that? They've got a job, they have custody of the mail, they're looking for debit and other gift cards, and they're looking for checks. And what we didn't get in the press conference is, how do they do it? Like, how do they find all that stuff? Now, you're not supposed to put cash in the mail. Don't put cash in the mail. My late mother-in-law's last gift to me was $50 in cash in the mail. I've been running around with a $50 bill, thinking it's good luck. I put it on the hole in one pool at the club, thinking maybe that's what it's going to do. But it's like, Mom, don't put cash in the mail. So the moral of the story is, don't put cash in the mail. Second is, be careful of everything you put in the mail. Third is, oh my God, how can you have a half a dozen people pilfering the entire region's mail and nobody knows it for years on end and millions of dollars at stake? So this is an interesting conversation. But there's something about theft. There are some folks who just kind of program theft as like a victimless crime. It's hardly victimless. So anyway, the U.S. Attorney's been a busy guy this week, and we'll follow up on those cases as well. To the subject of the day, here is, we teased you with this, World Trade Day. This feels bigger than life. Well, listen, anytime I have Eva Marie Mancuso in my studio, I feel like things have become bigger than life. And Betty Robson is here as well. She's the president and CEO of GF Moran, which is a customs broker and freight forwarding company, correct?
Yes.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
When people say, give me a short answer, what is it? We move stuff.
We help people move their stuff, and we do move things. We're the service provider for importers and exporters as they move their freight throughout the world.
Local company.
Local company,
with,
been here.
With branches around.
Branches around, been in Rhode Island since 1937, very proud of that.
And you're going to make supply chain an exciting conversation for this television show.
Oh, it's the most exciting part of the conversation.
How exciting is, by the way, my dear, and good to see you.
Good to see you too. Do you want me to comment on?
The full, see, I know. Do you want me?
Do you want me to comment on the other topics that you brought up?
First, it didn't matter what I started with today. She'd have something to say about it. Eva Marie and I go way back. We are fast friends. So full disclosure, she has, I think, done excellent work, most recently in the McKee administration, and moved as part of your work in the McKee administration to this job that you have, which is director of the Chafee Center for International Business at Bryant. Another mouthful, but a really important project for you.
Really important, and really important for our state. And just continues the work that I was doing for the governor on behalf of the state that I love. So what we do is we work with small businesses to either grow their international piece or teach them how to do it. So we have 2 tracks, and we manage it as the designated state international trade people. I work very closely with Liz Tanner and with Commerce. However, what we do is we also manage the federal STEP grant, which is giving money to businesses to either begin to look into moving forward on the international field or to expand. And just to give you some idea, Dan, we have 102,000 small businesses in Rhode Island and only 2,000 that export. So we really have a lot of room to grow in terms of making sure these businesses, and you say, why is it important? And supply chain is something that is one piece of this.
I was going to ask the question, why is that important?
Yeah.
Why is it important?
For sustainability. I mean, think about it. So I like to use the example of the Washington Bridge. And I listen to some of the companies that are there. Imagine if they had a robust website that was shipping to Canada at the same time with their goods. The bridge wouldn't be a big interruption for them, right? Why? Because they would already have another business to pivot to, another market to go to, if you will. It's the same thing with supply chain. We're not saying don't work with Canada, I'm sorry, don't work with China, you got to just work with Canada or Mexico. But what we're saying is diversify, protect yourself. We don't know what the next interruption is going to be, but there's going to be another interruption. God forbid, hopefully it's not COVID. Okay. But, you know, the thing is what we learned from this is we really have to protect our supply chain. And we have some unbelievable speakers. And how did I learn all of this? The lady sitting next to me, she's the one that came up with the topic with the committee, and it was unanimous. Everybody said this is the biggest issue on our business's mind right now because they can't get their products in from overseas because of the interruptions.
Okay, so we had an experience of a stuttering economy with COVID because of supply chain problems. We'll talk a little bit about that. And by the way, did you notice that I didn't move her off commentary on the first 2 issues. You moved yourself off the commentary on the first 2 issues. You asked if I wanted to hear what you thought on the other 2 things, And you talked yourself out of it. Did you want to?
So I have
will
two-
you leave wanting if you don't
So
offer me a
let me
thought
tell
on
you.
that?
Let me tell you two things. First of all, I have two daughters that are social workers. One that's a social worker in the schools in Massachusetts. That's a systemic problem, and it's awful because what we do is because we don't have beds to get kids out of the first acute stage. We can't send them home, so what do? We send them to either an emergency room or Bradley, waiting for a bed that fits their needs, and that's just wrong. We're working on that to try to build more beds, but that's just a small piece of what we're seeing right now in the mental health area, right? We don't have enough school counselors, we don't have enough therapists. That's one part. On the second part, personally, my husband and I went through a theft in our business by a family member who was prosecuted federally. Tim White carried the story. She went to federal prison for 5 years for stealing $750,000. She was my godchild and my bookkeeper. So you ask about people that steal from the post office. Do you think they really care about what they're doing for individuals? They don't.
No.
I don't think they think it's a victimless crime. I don't think they care. And I'll tell you something, what's going to be the difference now, and Zach Kuno will do it, the federal courts will do it, is give a good stiff penalty because that sends a message out. Because it used to be back in the day, oh, well, if you didn't murder somebody or rape somebody, what's the big deal? Insurance will pay it. Or, even in Sean, they're making money anyway. What's the big deal? What's a little $750,000, right? That's the way the courts would even play it down. You'd hear, oh, it's a victimless crime. That doesn't happen anymore. So anyway, that's my pontification, Betty.
My question is, how are there no cameras? Right, you questioned, how did this happen?
So I'm on the air yesterday, we're rolling this press conference on the radio, and the reporters are asking questions, but I'm saying, I'm going nuts. The question is, how did it happen? How did they allow this to happen? Over a year period of time, there are millions of dollars worth of stuff.
Wasn't the supervisor in on it too?
The supervisor's in on it, but still, there's got to be, right, exactly. You get a half a dozen alleged thieves going. So anyway, it's going to be a fascinating case. Anyway, when we come back, again, what World Trade Day means, and let's talk about how we've got to recover from supply chain issues. Be right back. Yeah, so who are those guys? Oh, that's Bryant University. That's the VO of the, as we say in the business, that's Bryant. I didn't know who those feet were. I was kind of be confused. But Bryant's a beautiful campus. The International Business Chafee Center is on campus, right?
Right.
Does what specifically?
So,
give me the short answer on this.
So we assist businesses in global trade, and we also...
Do people knock on the door saying need help? Or they call, they come, you have meetings, what do you do?
We do. I have an international trade, we have a team, and I have an international trade specialist and then a budget manager that works with the STEP program. And then what we do is we go out into the community and we talk to business groups and we talk to small groups, and that's what I do the best, is making my voice heard throughout the state, of which I love, and people that I know. So I go out there. I was on a panel for the Chamber of Commerce last week. I go out to the Black Business Association and the Hispanic Association and all of the different groups to offer our services as to what we can do. But we have more than Cecilia Perotto, who is our international trade specialist, has connections in all of the communities and goes out and we do these trainings.
So we'll go back to specifically what's happening at Bryant this coming week. It's a sold-out event, but you'll be hearing more news stories about it. And you should, if you're in the business community and you're a manager or an owner or even a key employee, you really pay attention to what's going on here, if not for this year, next year, and to be able to participate and learn, because these breakout sessions and all this learning that goes on is really kind of important. In the supply chain business, you must have had it must have been a nightmare for you. COVID-ish, yes, because you couldn't get anything to go anywhere. All we saw was pictures of boats with cargo stuck in ports. And how was that?
It was challenging, but there were some really great parts of it, too, because I think for a business like us, a legacy business in Rhode Island, we've got 71 employees, throughout the country, but it really helped to humanize the supply chain experience, and it made people who needed their goods understand that there were also humans involved that had to really stretch and think about creative ways to get their freight to them, to help them to come up with plans and to consider other options that they might not have considered before. And I think that even in speaking to people, on a daily basis now, years ago, no one knew what I did. They didn't understand.
Meaning moving stuff from one place to another.
They didn't understand it, right?
Yeah.
What does a customs broker do? What does a freight forwarder do, right? And no matter, how we talked about it, everyone just assumed that it didn't apply to them. But every single one of us.
It applies to everything.
Everything and everybody. So once the initial fear dissipated and we realized there were still options for moving freight, we would just work to get the freight anywhere we could in the United States, right? It didn't matter what coast, what port. If we could get it there, we would figure out how to get it to its ultimate destination.
What kind of volume of stuff were you dealing with? Well, I'm guessing on a regular basis you deal with a volume of stuff that is incredible, right?
Incredible.
I mean, give me a number. I mean, how much stuff are you managing the movement of with your company?
Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of goods.
I think it came roaring into the everyday person's consciousness that there's a supply chain out there when the disruption occurred, right? And it also took away kind of, I don't know how I say this, it took away, it created a kind of nakedness for small businesses and the like, where they go, where I don't know, you're ordering something for the kitchen and you're doing a remodel, right? And you're doing both, and you kind of think that the person that you're hiring to do that is, got all the magic, to deliver all the goods, and it all delivers on this particular day. But now they've got to expose themselves and say, you know what, I can't get the job done because I can't get this part, or I can't get this thing, or blah, blah. And all of a sudden the consumer is now experiencing their frustration, understanding what they're, and actually, in very many ways, just like with COVID itself, we learned a lot of things, right? Are we smarter consumers now because of what was exposed with the supply chain problem?
I think we are. I mean, think about, it was breaking news 2 days ago when Biden's office announced the additional tariffs on EVs from China.
Yeah.
Breaking news. It wouldn't have been breaking news pre-COVID, right? Because now we understand that tariffs are going to have an effect on our daily lives in some way. If there are tariffs on imported goods, we're going to pay more for those goods ultimately. Mm-hmm. What we also know is that if there are tariffs on imported goods from certain countries, that country is going to start imposing tariffs on the goods that we're trying to export.
Right.
And 10 years ago, that wasn't part of the dinner time conversation. We just didn't speak about these things. We didn't know that they had any effect on our lives, but now we all know that they do.
What is the state of supply chain movement in the country today?
It's pretty good. There are some stressors right now, right? The Red Sea, right, is incredibly challenging. My daughter, right, said to me, I cannot believe that we're talking about pirates. Right. In 2024.
These are Iranian supportive terror types that are out there just taking pot shots where they can for the purpose I'm not exactly sure, other than just disruption.
Right.
Disruption.
Right.
Disruption. And so now we've got goods that are now having to travel around the Cape of Good Horn, which adds 6 to 10 days to a voyage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when you're talking about these massive amounts of cargo. We've got a stressor in the Panama Canal right now. So the Panama Canal was expanded several years ago, and ships were built to pass through the channel under the bigger conditions. So they're post-Panamax vessels.
So I could actually listen to this forever because I'm fascinated about all these business streams. What are you going to try to? What are people going to learn at this thing this week about supply chain, and why is it important for businesses, whether attending this event or not? To know what?
That they have to know what's going on in the world, right? They have to know about the piracy in the Red Sea. They need to know about the drought in the Panama
Can't
Canal.
just click an order.
You
Just can't do that. Got to know.
You have to know, and you have to be aware of these things. You have to know, you know, where the most favorable nations are to source your products, right? You can't just blindly click an order. You need to know what's going on. For me, it's a good time because trade professionals are so important in supply chain management. So when you ask the question, you know, was it terrible for you, right, to have all these disruptions in the supply chain? Yes, right. There were some things about it that were terrible, but there were also benefits from it.
But good stress for your business, I bet, right?
Good stress for
because you were a
business.
problem solver the entire way.
Right, and we had always been a problem solver, but we always felt like we were in the background, right? We were just, you know, behind the curtain, making sure that everything flowed smoothly.
You're the umpire in a baseball game.
Yes, yes.
Until you throw somebody out, then all of a sudden you become high profile.
Exactly.
It's not a great analogy, but it was kind of close. All right, final thoughts on this and the important work that Bryant's doing. Stay with us.
We're going to do radio.
So again, the World Trade Day is Wednesday of next week. Be aware of what's going on. I'm sure that, there are folks that can attend, but I'm sure you're going to be reporting out on a lot of what's been learned and said at this event, right?
Yeah.
That's the modern seminar of today, right?
Right, right. And we're also going to be using pieces going forward as well, doing different seminars on these topics. We do that at the Chafee Center because, as Betty was pointing out, you know, the trade professionals, what we try to do is we try to attack particular issues during the course of the year so that maybe you're a small business and you're thinking about being interested. We have so many resources, both through the Chafee Center, through Commerce Rhode Island, and through the federal government that are out there.
I loved your early message. You only have 30 seconds here, but your early message was, don't be limited in what you think your market is.
Right.
Don't be limited in what you think your market is, right? That's the moral of the story
It is
here.
the moral of the story.
You know, your market is not just right in front of you.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and,
That's right.
And you got to be diverse. Well, listen, Bryant is what an economic engine the place is.
18th.
Did you get smarter now that you're over there?
18th. I'm so smart.
No, did you get smarter though?
18th in the country. I can't say that. I'm a URI grad. It's 18th in the country in international business. 18th in the country in international business.
Really?
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Final word when we come back. Yes, so World Trade Day, Bryant, Wednesday. Be aware of it. A lot of learning going on. And we'll follow up on some of those other stories next week. See you on the radio as well on WPRO. Thanks for tuning in.